we should be live. And I'm just going to go here just to make sure we are. And it says excellent connection. And we are live. I'm here with Mr. Brian Wilson. Now, I wanted to ask you, I didn't get a quick chance, but so you were, correct me if I'm wrong, 250 in the world singles,
yeah.
125 in the world doubles.
Sounds about right.
That is pretty amazing. You don't, like, I've never met anybody who's anywhere near that. The closest that I knew was a guy who was 900.
Yeah.
You know? So before we get into all that and the difference between people who think they can beat you when really they've got no chance whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tell me what it was like starting out as a kid. That's what really interests me.
Yeah. Well, tennis was definitely something I started as a young kid. I was 4 years old. Both my parents played. My grandparents played. It was definitely a family sport. So I grew up at the YMCA in San Marcos, California. I played two other sports. I played basketball and soccer, both at a high level. One thing you won't see these days, kids playing three sports till they're 15. So I think both playing all three of those sports really helped me in different facets. But in regards to tennis, I started very young. Didn't start tournaments until I was probably 9, 10 years old. So later than some other players, in California. But as a kid, I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I had a really good coach. His name was Marcelo. He was from Argentina. But yeah, played a lot. Not as much as some other kids because I was playing those other sports. So sometimes, I talked to my parents. They said, "Hey, you're only going to get to play twice this week, so let's focus really hard." So as I look back on it now, as I'm almost 40 now. One of the things I try to pass on to other students that I coach, or my son who's 8, is make the most of your practice.
Right.
I still got a lot better when I was practicing 2-3 times a week. But yeah, at about 15, I got really serious. I left home. I went to a tennis academy in Central California.
Right.
Beautiful place called Ojai. And, played tennis just all day.
Right.
And got a lot better then. But yeah, as a kid, it was a family sport. Southern Cal's a great place to play tennis, just like Florida. A lot of great competition, a lot of great players. You're playing every weekend. So you're going to get better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely helped to play multiple sports. But yeah, I started at 4 and just loved it always.
And so how much of that you going to that California school was like, how much was it you jumping and how much was it you being pushed? And did you feel pressure?
Yeah.
Because to give you an example, I got a friend of mine's son a few years ago who was in the reserve team, I think they call it, for West Ham United.
Okay.
And they basically said, like, if you're not doing it by 14, you might as well get a job in Smith's. What was that like? Was it like a big pressure thing? Was it like a natural thing?
That's a great question, Stuart. I think, we had a pretty mature conversation with my parents.
Right.
At 14, saying, hey, we're entering high school. What's the plan for college? My parents didn't have a lot of money. They couldn't really pay for my college. They told me that. They were up front. My dad started as a painter. He got into construction, took over the family business from his father. So he said, let's start thinking about a college scholarship. I think I could have got a college scholarship in all three of those sports.
Right.
Basketball, maybe it was lower Division I, Division II. Soccer was pretty good, maybe the same, maybe Division I. But tennis, I kind of knew that I could be really good.
Right.
I had the right body type. I had good coaching. And, I had some skills that were starting to show themselves at 14. So I don't think it was so much a push from them. It was more a perspective check.
This is a practical way we can make this happen.
Right. And so what is the next step, right? We played 3 sports. We played a lot of national tournaments. Didn't have a lot of success at nationals. I was maybe the 30th best player in the country in the U.S. at 14, which is good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not great. So, now it's time to make a decision. Here's an opportunity where you can go to this school, this prep school, and it's just tennis players. It's nobody else. At that time, it was only 30 kids. It was pretty new. And other really good players my age. So I would enjoy it. We could travel the same tournaments.
Right.
So it was, I think it was just a great great job by my parents sitting me down and saying, this is your next step of your life.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
It's good for you. It's good for us.
Right. Yeah. We're not going to pay a lot for college.
Yeah.
But, they already invested so much in me.
Yeah.
They took a lot of time away from my two other siblings who are older.
Right.
And so my mom was always traveling with me. My dad was working extra so I could go to these tournaments. So it was a great chat we had and, ended up being a great decision.
Yeah. And how did that, because life is life, right? When if you do one thing, something else suffers.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't live. And, it's like whether you believe in the the planet thing or whatever you believe in, when you do one thing, something else suffers. So you just said, did that have any negative things on the relationship with your siblings, the fact that you were getting more of the attention?
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to your brother and he seems like a super nice guy.
Great guy.
But, was that something that bothered you at the time, or
well,
were they like, go Brian, or?
Yeah, my siblings were I think, just as supportive as my parents. My sister was an incredible athlete. She was a track star. She was one of the best in the state at high jump. She also rode horses.
Right.
So we were actually given a horse at a young age, and
wow.
she took care of it. It was free. And my brother is a very intelligent, very creative person. He worked at Apple and worked at Intuit. But no, they really supported me. My brother played high school tennis. We're on the same tennis team.
Oh, really?
So it was funny because the clash of siblings, some of your listeners may understand this, but I was trying to be really good at tennis and always wanted to win every point.
Yeah.
Super competitive. My brother wanted to show off for the crowd. So he was always trying between the leg shots. He was always trying these trick shots. And I would get upset because I'm like, no, we got to win 6-0, 6-0. But no, my siblings were super supportive. I remember my brother coming to Illinois where I played college tennis, and he was just so excited to see me in my element.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go to class with me and see where I was and go watch my practice. I said, why do you want to go watch my practice? He said, I want to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So both older siblings, my brother's 3 years older. I was close with my sister because she was always the one protecting me from my brother when he was trying to beat me up. But no, both amazing people, both very successful now. Great. And I think one of the reasons why we are successful is we always support each other.
Yeah, because I think, for somebody who's done as well as you have, you need everything behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a lot of the thing is whether it's music, whether it's tennis, whatever it is in life, it's like you need that emotional support. If you're feeling bad, if you think your family's upset with you, that can make a really big difference to how you might perform that week or how you might perform that weekend. But there was a really interesting point I wanted to bring up because for those guys who don't know, I've been out of town for a couple of years, but I always do your clinics when I'm in town. And you were talking about college tennis last night and about how one guy purposely whacked the ball into the back of another guy. I think it was your teammate.
My teammate, yeah.
But what interested me was like, so you're playing, you're at home, you're playing, everything's fun. You go to college. At what point did you think, oh, this is like getting a bit serious now?
Yeah.
Was that one of those? Was that just like a real isolated incident, or did you see that competition and that little bit of kind of nastiness that where people started? Did that? When did that start to happen?
So as far as tennis goes, a lot of people think it's a gentleman's sport. But for the good thing for me, growing up in Southern California, not a lot of gentlemanly games. Let's say. It's very cutthroat,
right?
For kids and for parents, so I think I saw it at a pretty young age. I saw parents getting in fist fights, players, police being called, playing in not the best places in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I saw. I had players, cheating me left and right, changing scores, this and that. So that actually prepared me for college. Because in college tennis, there is a fair amount of cheating.
Right.
And so one of the reasons why I chose Illinois is because they had amazing coaching staff, but the team was kind of on the threshold of becoming great.
Right.
They had a great track record. They weren't, the best.
Right.
It was always Stanford, UCLA, Florida, Georgia. So I kind of wanted to be part of something new and special. But one reason I went there is because they were so competitive and they wanted to win a national championship, which we ended up doing. But I knew what I was getting into. As a 17, 18-year-old, I was already playing professionally.
Yeah.
So, I was playing some professional events. I got a professional ranking, I think, when I was 16 or 17. So I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. And so when the game's over, are the guys like, hey, man, never mind, or they go, I'm going to kill you later? Is it really that?
I mean, I would say 80% of the time, everyone's good, right? 80% of the time, guys understand, heat of the battle. We're playing for a school, we're playing for money, we're playing for a world ranking. But you get just like everything, like in life or music or sports, you get some bad sports. But I'd say 80% of the time it's all good. I remember I played Rafter in St. Louis, and he was retired, but we played a match. It was super competitive. I ended up beating him in tiebreak narrowly, and he said that was fantastic. Thanks for being a great sport. Do you want to have a beer? So we had a pint, in the hotel bar, and also I got to play Andre Agassi, and he came up to me before the match and said, he introduced himself. Hey, I'm Andre. I said, I know who you are. But I think those two professionals showed me, as you transition to the pros, let's keep it like this. Like Rafa does, like Roger does, such good sports.
And I would imagine part of the, and just going to bring me to my next point, but I would imagine the same as in my business. It's like, if you're going to be on the road with somebody, if you're doing these tours, tennis tours, you're going to see the same guys. You're going to end up in the same bars. Sometimes you're going to end up having the same girlfriends or your date. It can be a really, I'm not, if it's anything like my business, that's what it can be like. And so it's important to get on with people, because if you don't get on with people, that's going to be, it's different if it's like me. I used to be a terrible, angry tennis player. But, I go, I just won't go for 2 weeks. I'll let myself calm down and let everybody else calm down. But unfortunately, on a tennis tour, you can't do that. So how did you, so now you and your family have realised you're very good, you've got a lot of potential, you've got into college, you're playing that, when is the decision to go pro? And how do you even do that?
Well, that's a great question. Luckily for me, I think it's lucky. I struggled a little bit, in my freshman year, just with the whole college experience, making sure we're managing our time and everything like that. But as I progressed, into my junior year, I became much better. Our team won. I won an NCAA title with the team, then also individually in doubles with Rajiv Ram. So I was kind of there, and I was already having success on the tour. Two of our best players, Amir Delic and Rajiv Ram, turned pro after our junior year. We had an undefeated season. We went 32-0. Amir won the singles. We won the doubles. So it was pretty special. I was thinking of turning pro, and one of the reasons I didn't is my father talked to me and said, that your senior year, you're getting an all-expense-paid trip to South Africa by the University of Illinois. My coach, Craig Tiley, who's the CEO of Tennis Australia now, he runs the Australian Open and has for the last 15 years.
Wow.
He went to the university and said, look, these guys have put in the work. I put in the work. I want to take them to South Africa for 17 days. My dad said, you will never get that trip again in your life. And it'll be hard for you to pay for it, even if you're wildly successful. So I also wanted to try to repeat as a national champion. So I went back to school, and that's one of the reasons I didn't turn pro in 2003. Most amazing trip of my life. We went on a safari. We had time off in Cape Town. We went to Stellenbosch, wine country. It was just an incredible life experience. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't turn pro then. But, in the summers, you start to play professionally. That's what you do as a tennis player. Also the fall of my senior year.
And how does that work? Do you get invited to tournaments, or do you just write to them, or someone puts you forward?
So you play smaller events. So they're called futures. So there's futures, there's challengers, then there's ATP level events. And then after that, there's Grand Slams. So essentially 4 levels. You start with futures. Once you progress and you get enough points, you can enter and get accepted into a challenger. One of the things about tennis is you can actually go to a tournament and sign in on Friday night and try to get in qualifying. So there's no advanced entry. It's essentially a crapshoot. So players, I've been to Beijing, Australia, South America, Belize, and you go and sign in Friday night, and you're trying to look around and see who's there. Hopefully you can get in.
Not Andre.
Not Andre. So at 9 p.m., sometimes the draw will come out, and you'll see if you're playing Saturday. So luckily for me, I was always in the main draw of doubles. So I was guaranteed a small paycheck, and I had, maybe, a hotel room paid for, but then I would try to play singles qualifying. So you try to get to, qualify for the main draw of singles. You're also playing doubles. But you start small. You start at what we call the futures, the 15,000s. I won a couple of those. Then you progress to challengers. When you're playing in the U.S., my federation, the USTA, would sometimes give me a wild card. So
Right.
let me know in advance. You're going to get a wild card into Lexington. Be there 4 days in advance. We'll help you with a coach. So they were supportive, of my journey as well.
Yeah.
So you can get wild cards into the main draw, or if it's a bigger event, into qualifying.
Yeah.
And then you just progress. And, every match you win in a pro event, you get ATP points.
Okay.
And ATP points, the more you get, the higher your ranking is.
Right. So how do you actually tour? So to give you an example, in the music business, not so much now, but when I was sort of growing up, if you get a record deal, your traveling and your booking of shows is done by a completely different company.
Okay.
And depending on how well you're doing,
You're
depends on how you're going to travel. Now, you can have a bus, you could sleep on the bus, you could maybe have a bus and a cheap hotel room. So somebody like you who's going on a tour, who's taking care of all of that? Who's booking those hotel rooms?
Costs a lot of money.
Who's booking those flights? And who's paying for it?
Right. So as a junior, it was my parents. I played mostly in California. Nice thing about California, there we had probably 7 or 8 pro tournaments a year, which
Right.
is pretty good, right? Because you don't have to fly, you just drive.
Right.
As I got older, though, and I got into college, if you're enrolled in the college, they pay everything.
Ah, okay.
So during this,
Even as a pro?
not in the summer. In the summer, we would travel together and share expenses.
Right.
So there's usually 4 guys to a room. If you lose, you sleep on the floor. So, and it's not the best, Holiday Inns, some Motel 6s. But
Right.
then if you're enrolled in school, the fall of my senior year, they paid for everything.
Yeah.
So I took the fall off of school, but I was able to stay enrolled.
Right.
So they paid for everything, and sometimes the coach traveled. So, but yeah, it's a lot of it is.
But are you using your own car? Are you having to hire transport?
No, that we were when I was in college, so the fall of 2004, the university paid for everything. But after that, let's say after 2004, I finished school.
So they would hire you a bus or hire you a 4x4?
Right.
Okay.
But after I finished school, I actually had people from the university, alumni, that helped support me.
Oh, okay.
So I created an LLC, Brian Wilson Tennis.
So almost
LLC.
like a crowdfunding thing before crowdfunding.
Yeah, and
okay,
so that
cool.
was, we had some people, buy stock and invest in the company, invest in myself, and then I would always try to get them experiences in tennis. So when I played the U.S. Open, I would these 3 gentlemen that helped me, I would get them tickets and go hit with them at the practice courts and introduce them to some bigger names. But it gets expensive. So that I also had some more help from the USTA my first 2 years on tour. One of the biggest expenses is coaching, right? Because the coaching, when you have a coach, you have to pay their expenses. So every week, it's usually a flight, it's a hotel, it's food, and then a salary.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years, the USDA took care of my coaching, which was amazing. So I trained out of Los Angeles, Carson, California. We actually shared a gym with the LA Galaxy.
Wow.
So I was training next to David Beckham.
Oh.
And funny story, I was on a treadmill. And tennis players are pretty good athletes.
Yeah.
But not like soccer players.
No.
So I was running on the treadmill, and I look over, and this guy's just flying. I said, he looks familiar. It's David Beckham.
Wow.
I got straight off the treadmill.
Yeah.
I went and did something else. He was just flying.
Went and bought a Spice Girls record.
Something else. But so, yeah, USTA helped me my first couple of years, and then after that, it was just me.
Right.
And I probably spent between 80 and 110,000 per year after that on expenses.
How was you getting that money?
That was from prize money.
Right.
So the money I had made, I would say 2006 or 7 was my best year when I had a couple big wins. I qualified at a couple Grand Slams. When you qualify for a big tournament, they pay your hotel, they give you food. So if you ever see a player with a player badge or credential, that has food money on it. So you may get $70, $80 a day. But also like in Manhattan, if you're staying in Manhattan at the U.S. Open, they give you a hotel for a week. It's a big deal. That's $350, $400 a night. So when you get into the bigger events, you get a free hotel, some food. But like the smaller events, they're called challengers. Almost every challenger has housing.
Right.
That families of that tennis club
okay.
will house a player.
Right.
So that is something you really want to get. So early on, people are emailing a tournament director. A lot of times we do a kids clinic to get housing. It was like my son Dublin. They'd house us, and I'd go play tennis with them every day for 30, 40 minutes. Just a give and take.
Yeah.
But the hotels is a big one. But sometimes you get stuck with a $1,000 hotel bill, and you make $1,200 in money. prize money.
Yeah.
So you're clearing $200-$300. So if you can get housing, that helps a lot. Plus, it's fun. You instead of staying in a hotel, you get to connect with people. Maybe to get a couple spaghetti dinners.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. So, what percentage, say for 100% of the people that are on the tour, okay, what percentage of those people are rich? And what is the relationship between the rich tennis player or the tennis player that has the rich parents that don't have to worry about anything that you just spoke about, and the guys like yourself who are kind of going out, doing clinics, hitting with people, networking? Is there like a big, because I don't know if it's true, but I hear that Rafael Nadal's parents are very, very rich.
Yeah.
So what, is there like a lot of resentment between those kind of two camps?
No, I wouldn't say resentment. I mean, it's just a different route.
Right.
I think in anything, if you're trying to be successful, there's going to be people that have a different route to get there.
Yeah.
I really I enjoyed my route. I respected the fact of where I came from.
Right.
And, all my parents sacrificed, so I think that kind of helped me really.
Right. Maybe that pushed you a little bit more.
It pushed me a little, and also I didn't take anything for granted.
No.
Sometimes I'd be at a Denny's having a couple pancakes and a glass of milk, and I said, "This is pretty cool."
Yeah.
I don't need eggs Benedict. But no, I don't think resentment. I mean, obviously, I think it's really important.
And I don't mean you personally. I just mean between
overall.
the people that have and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be easier for the haves in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing that sometimes I struggle with, as I move past my first couple of years, is having a coach full-time.
Right.
So, having somebody that was really in your corner every single day, every single week.
Yeah.
That's something that I didn't have all the time, and it's important. So the people that have, funding and that have, family money can afford that.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yes, yes.
Because tennis is, I was the number one player in college, and my first year I played 31 tournaments.
Right.
I lost 30 of the tournament. I only won one.
Right.
So I mean, you have 30 events where you're not breaking all the way through. You really need somebody there with you. There's a lot of losing in tennis. It's tough.
Yeah, and my real question about this is like, okay, so you've got a tennis coach. Now, you know how to hit a tennis ball. There's no doubt about it. Most professionals do, obviously.
Right.
So the role of the coach, how much of that role is telling you what you did wrong yesterday or telling what you should do better today, and just having that psychological supportive role of like, you got this, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
What would you say is the balance between those two things?
Yeah, that's a very, very that's a tough question. I'll give you somewhat of a short answer, but I think a lot of things that I've seen with great coaching is the coach has to understand your personality.
Yeah.
And after that, in tennis, they have to understand your game style.
Right.
So in tennis, there's essentially 4 or 5 different game styles. So you have to identify that, and you have to be able to, the coach has to be able to push you to commit to that.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you're an aggressive player, a serve volley like I was, they have to make you commit to that.
Yeah.
Even when the match is close.
Right.
Even when maybe your serve's not on. You have to continue to do that. And then it's also got to be somebody that can motivate you to work on your weaknesses.
Yeah, because they can't coach from the sidelines, can they?
No. A lot of coaches do, but it's illegal.
Does anyone know this? You can't see the motion I'm doing because I
Right,
don't want
right.
to get in trouble.
Right.
But so my question to you is: let's say, for example, you've got a choice of two coaches, right? Somebody's written you a check. Get yourself a coach, Brian. You got one guy who's a technical genius, blah 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 blah, but he's a bit quiet.
Yeah.
Not the greatest guy to hang out with. Not necessarily a bad person. But then you've got this other guy who's not the greatest technical guy in the world. I mean, obviously he has to be a certain level or he won't be there.
Right.
But he's super fun. You want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
It makes you laugh. It kind of motivates you. Which one are you going to pick?
Well, it depends on how good I am already.
So sometimes you don't need the super technical guy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was things I need to improve after college. Like I didn't have the best ground strokes.
Right.
My serve's very good, movement very good, volley's very good, forehand, could have been better. Backhand pretty good. But I think it's definitely what level you're at. And you'll see some of the better players in the world now. They're getting coaches that are telling them everything's great.
Right.
And I've seen it in some young players right now. I mean, the one I'm not going to mention, but top 10 in the world, and everyone around him is telling him you're playing amazing.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that he has big holes in his game
Yeah.
that need to be changed. So, that's not the best situation.
Now, it's interesting that you should say that because in my business, it's exactly the same thing. Everybody go, yeah, you're killing it, bro. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Because we say, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And also, I would imagine that your coach doesn't want to get fired.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is if they've got a crazy, I don't, I'm trying to think of the guy's name now. It was one of the number one in the world. He had the big Australian problem a little while ago. What's the guy's number one in the world, or he was anyway?
Who? Hewitt?
No.
Australian player?
No, he's Czechoslovakian, I think. Or I'm probably going to get in terrible trouble for saying this, but he's one of the best players in the world. Anyway, his mum and dad used to always be at the tournaments
around,
and it's what makes me think. Well, how difficult is it for a coach to go? Okay, I need to tell him to do.
You got to butter
this.
him up.
Well, no, I need to be real and tell him to do this,
Yeah.
and possibly get fired because his mum and dad are in the stands, and they're going to be like, don't listen to him. You're fantastic.
Yeah, I think you see on tour. A lot of these coaches don't have guaranteed contracts. They're month to month. It's not even a half year. It's not even a year. On the women's tour, a lot of times it's week to week.
Oh my God.
So okay, let's do these 2 weeks and then we'll see. And then if it doesn't go well, maybe you're gone.
Yeah.
So there's different levels. Obviously, if you can get a guaranteed contract, now we have consultant coaches.
Right.
Who will only do the bigger events. Which is kind of good, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're not in it for the money. They're maybe established or already were very successful. Let's say Paul Anacone. He's working with Taylor Fritz, but on a consultant basis.
Right.
Michael Russell, who I knew on tour, he's Taylor's full-time coach. So that works really well because they need to work together, but one is with him all the time.
Yeah.
Anacone is more, a general coach. He'll come in for the Grand Slams. But, yeah, it's very hard. A lot of what coaching is, Stuart, is, and music as well, is are you going to stick to your principles or not? As a coach, are you gonna stick to what you believe in and coach that way, or are you gonna sugarcoat it? And that's just in life. I think there's really two ways you can go.
Yeah.
I've made some changes. In who I coach or where I coach.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to bend my philosophy.
No.
As a player, I knew what I was good at, and I was going to stick to it. But yeah, coaching on tour is not an easy business.
And do those guys like certain people in the music? Obviously, I'm not going to mention any names, but certain people in the music business have got horrific reputations on tour.
Oh yeah,
right. Whether they're teching or whether they're actually one of the musicians. Did you find that certain of coaches on tour had these like, oh my God, don't ever go with that guy? Did they still?
Absolutely. I think. As far as reputations go, you want somebody that is going to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
That's going to help not only with coaching, but also managing your schedule, what tournaments to play, helping with travel.
Yeah.
Helping with travel is a huge thing.
As I was saying earlier, that's
that falls under the coach's role, because for tennis players, if you're playing at a high level, you're flying every week. They do tournaments across. They don't do a great job of lining tournaments on the West Coast, or with a music tour. You can kind of maybe do some events where you can just drive.
Yeah.
Tennis is flying.
Right.
So the coach has to really help with booking flights, booking hotels, managing finances. Even hey, if I had a late night last night, I don't want to get up early.
No.
As an athlete, I want to sleep in. So you go get breakfast.
Yeah.
You bring it to the room. You get coffee. That's kind of the job.
Yeah. And do you find that, because, again, very weird dynamic in the music business, like I used to manage a couple of guys. I didn't want to. They asked me to manage. I honestly didn't want to. It was just like they needed some help in London. I knew some people, so I ended up doing it. But within a couple of weeks, it was like they'd put their bags down and just kind of look at them and expect me to pick them up. Yeah. Do those poor coaches, do they get treated like garbage at times? Or
I never.
You saw that?
Yeah, maybe you saw it a little bit, but I think as a younger player, and a lot of players that I was playing with were trying to break through, so they weren't paying the coaches a lot.
Yeah.
So we needed to do some work too. I wasn't expecting anybody to carry my bag or pick up the balls or anything. It was more of a team effort.
Right. Okay.
So there's always people that don't treat the coaches the best, but at my level, I saw the players being pretty respectful and also when you're a young pro, you want to have a good reputation,
right?
Because maybe you stop with this coach, but then that coach will tell that coach, another coach, hey, don't pick up Brian because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that because that new coach may be the key for a breakthrough.
Okay, so you're out on the road. I'm assuming you're having fun. Good-looking young man. You're a tennis pro. I mean, how wrong can it go? At what point does it start to get tricky? And at what point do you go, I don't know how much longer I want to?
Yeah.
And what really interests me, because for some people, whether it's tennis, whether it's music, there's sometimes one tiny thing that can happen that can switch in somebody's mind and go,
yeah,
I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Not for everybody. But for some people there is.
Mine was, I had a great time. I mean, I met some amazing people. I mean, being able to play Grand Slam tennis, travel all over the world for 6-7 years, play in college, win a national championship, play, all that. I'm blessed. And one of the biggest things, I saw some young American players that were the same level as me, but younger, who didn't go to college. Every time they lost, they were going out. They were going out big time. They were hitting the bars, they were hitting the scene, hitting the clubs. They were hungover the whole next day, maybe 2 days. So that was, I was already kind of over that because I partied hard in college.
Right.
We played really hard, we practiced really hard, but we also had a great time in college.
Yeah.
We had a close-knit group of friends. Illinois was an amazing university. A lot of great bars, a lot of fun.
Right.
So I think I was kind of past that on tour. Of course, you go out and party, every now and again.
Yeah.
But I had purpose. I didn't have a ton of money, so I knew time was of the essence. I think one of the things that made me start to rethink everything, is when I went to Australia, and I didn't play well. I maybe didn't prepare the best. And I wrote a check for, I don't know, it was like $12,000.
Wow.
For the trip, for flights and flights in a condo, and it was just a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was coming all out of my own pocket. Then, I was a big boy. I was an adult. No sponsors.
Right.
Nobody was paying that. I was my own pocket. And I started to realize, it's probably time. If something doesn't happen really big in the next few months, that I'm gonna have to, stop playing.
Think about
and get another job.
And an interesting question is, there was a thing, I think it was in the New York Times or New York Post or something like that. There was a time when John McEnroe had played. I think it was a guy called Brad Gilbert.
Yeah.
And those whole McEnroe guys were, they were, doing everything you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
And he got beaten by this guy,
Right.
who in his mind was way below him.
Yeah.
But they wrote an article and he said that he realised he'd got beaten by a fitter, more focused, person who wasn't doing all the things that John McEnroe was doing. Did you see that in your, not with you necessarily, but did you see that in your professional career where?
Oh yeah, I mean, I heard, I wasn't as good as these guys, but I heard stories about Safin, at Wimbledon, partying till 2 or 3 in the morning. Police get called. The coach shows up at the door with not a lot of clothes on, and Safin's playing the next day at noon, and he was still an amazing player, but, could have been a lot better.
Could have been a lot better.
He could have won, 6, 7, 8 Grand Slams. There's always guys out there that aren't super focused. Sometimes it's the ones with have a little more time and money on their hands. Yeah. But that wasn't the guys I surrounded myself with, because I had one plan and I had to stick with it.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience. You have people from all around the world, at one event. I was in Dallas once, and I think there was 32 players, and there was 23 countries or 20 countries represented.
Right.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
To be in you're in Dallas, Texas, and you got 20 countries represented at this tournament. So that was a really neat one, but yeah, it's all different walks of life playing the sport.
Yeah, so you do this Australian thing, and you sort of realising, how much longer can I spend this amount of money, unless somebody's going to fly, unless Richard Branson's going to come down and go, hey man, just take whatever you want. So you realise that you got to start looking at other options. Was it always going to be coaching? Was that the only thing that was ever on the table for you, or was there some other things that you had in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I love sports. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I I could see myself doing other sports, and maybe coaching it or consulting it. But obviously, I had such a great background in tennis, and I have, pretty good credibility within the tennis community. I like being around, kids and helping kids. And, I think my parents did such a great job with me. Part of my coaching philosophy is helping parents. Because tennis is a really hard sport for parents to understand if they've never played it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. There's a lot of missing. There's a lot of errors. There's a lot of losing.
So much emotion, I think.
So much emotion.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons why I stuck with it early on is because I knew I could make a difference not only with kids, but with their parents.
Right.
And ultimately, that helps the kids. So after, I think I played for another 3-4 months, and I was just like, I'm like, this is it. My parents said, we agree with you. There's some signs here, And so I went to move back in with them in San Diego. And so I had a couple days off. And then my dad woke me up at 5 a.m. on a Monday. And he said, Brian, get up, get ready. I go, what do you mean, Dad? I said, I don't have any plans. I said, it's 5 a.m. It's dark out. He said, you're coming to work. And I said, what? And you're coming to the construction site. And I go, all right. I kind of knew it was possible.
Yeah.
But I said, if you're living in the house, you're going to come work construction with me.
Right.
So I went, and no special treatment. I was sweeping floors. I was, doing taping stuff and whatever. So I did that for maybe a month or two, and I said, well, it's time to start thinking about
coaching.
Coaching. And I had some contacts here in Las Vegas, and that was it.
So why? Obviously, you decided not to do the touring coaching thing.
Yeah.
What was the reason? Because I would imagine, is it financially worth it? Is it something that's? But you obviously that was not something that you pursued.
No. Yeah. Coaching on tour is. It's very hard to find a good gig.
Right, okay.
And even if you find a good gig, it could be the pay not great for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Before you break into it and you're, very successful financially.
Yeah.
Like I said, too, I really like coaching junior players.
Right.
I like, developing them from a young age and really having that connection. Which is you probably don't get on tour.
Right.
So that, I've had some offers to get into college coaching. That's still possibly on the horizon at this point. But yeah, no, I never really took the tour coaching seriously.
So I can honestly tell you, as somebody who's travelled around the world quite a bit, there's some amazing tennis coaches out there like yourself, and there's some that are absolutely terrible. And even I can recognise that.
Yeah.
Even in terms of they can't keep their students in check.
Yeah.
There's one guy who was I actually got into an argument with a guy in Mexico because he was like, right, pick up those balls. And I was like, no, man, let's be like that. And the kid was like 13 or something. And I said, "What?"
You getting into an argument with a tennis coach?
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? He said I was mental. And I said to him, I goes, answer me this. With this amount of, these people, these kids, the way they're responding to you and the amount of discipline that you don't or not, instilling in them, how many of them do you think they are going to be professional?
Yeah.
And he had to stop for a minute. He goes, well, this is what I said. No, none of them.
Yeah.
I said, in it with his guitar, I don't care what it is in life. Maybe you accidentally write a great song. That can happen.
Right.
But if you want to be like Eddie Van Halen didn't,
accidentally
practice once a week. I can guarantee you that. Brian Wilson didn't practice twice a week.
Right.
So how do you, as a professional, like when do you go to a club? Do you just like keep yourself to yourself, or how does that work? I mean, because
you mean in regards to seeing other coaches?
Yeah, because you're so much better than. There's no way, and I mean, I don't know. I only know the tennis clubs I go to.
Right.
But there's no way that there's going to be people there that are going to be. There's going to be people there that are nowhere at your level, and they could be coaching on the next court.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really love to do, and I've done more of it over the past couple of years, is mentor other coaches,
which is great.
That's one of the things that I feel is my duty. In regards to the parents, is it's more of a universal thought of, hey, let's grow our sport, and the sport is growing big time.
Yeah,
but mentoring other coaches and just collaborating, sharing thoughts, sharing drills. So one of the fun things I do at the USTA is I'm a faculty coach.
Right.
So I travel around the country and I do camps with some top juniors, but also we get 7 or 8 coaches that can coach in the camp with us.
Right.
And so I kind of advise and give them a lesson plan, and then get feedback.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? What can be a little better? This is a drill I like to help this shot. So I think a lot of it is just getting people to understand. We're not only helping the kids, but let's help the parents. Let's help other coaches.
Yeah.
So it's something I love doing. But in anything you have to respect people that are working hard.
Yeah.
And in tennis you also have to. There are boundaries. I'm not a guy that's going to go steal students from somebody else. My reputation.
Well, you don't need to.
Well, yeah, but I still could. A lot of people do. A lot of people.
Well, let's talk after.
A lot of people that have a good background want to do that, but that was never me, and that's not how my parents raised me. But I do really like helping other coaches.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of entering the next phase. At 40 years old and can be coaching for a while. That's something I'm going to continue to do.
Yeah. So one of the most frustrating things for me when I do tennis clinics, and I notice it in your clinic and I notice it in other clinics, and I don't know whether you've just got a very thick skin, or I'd love to get your opinion on this. And you can tell me if you think I fall in this category. I know I've been an a-hole on court many times before, but that's more of an emotional thing. But I notice in your clinic that a lot of times people just don't listen. And I just think, this is guy like 250 in the world. He just told you something.
Yeah.
You should at least consider it.
Yeah. Well,
and just to add to that, you're not one of those guys. Like, there's certain coaches that will they're throwing out stuff every 10 seconds.
Right. I don't like. Yeah. I don't like that.
But and the thing is, it's not because for me that they're necessarily doing something wrong or they're trying to be a bad guy or whatever. But there's only a certain
too much information.
As an amateur, there's only a certain amount. Right. You go, turn the thing, flick your wrist, got the thing, put your foot. You go,
same music, right? You can't give a starting guitar player 18 different things to think about.
No,
right?
You know what I mean? Well, you can, but they won't think about.
They won't remember any of them.
Any of them.
Zero for 18.
So you're great. You just sort of put this little bit of information out. And I noticed one thing you said at the clinic last night. You said, right, if the other guys are at the net, don't go to the net. What happens 2 seconds later? They go to the net.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just because?
I remember that.
Do you think that that's just because? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of times adult players come to a clinic and they are just wanting to hit balls.
Right. I agree with that.
They're just wanting a workout, right? So, I always have, 3 categories. You've got to learn something, got to get a really good workout, and you got to have some fun.
Yeah.
Right? Any one of my clinics. And so in a 90-minute clinic, I'll have 2 to 4 themes or 2 to 4 tips, let's say. If it's first volley, hitting it deep, or hitting more spin on this shot. 2 to 4 things that I want you guys to leave with. And within the clinic, I expect, at your guys' level, the advanced level, to do it. If you fail, well, you fail.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, say, hey, I'm paying. I'm just going to go hit balls. But I paid for the clinic, so I can kind of do whatever I want. But I will say, I have a lot of regulars now, and a lot of them are understanding it.
Yeah.
And they're getting better. They're winning more matches. They're having more fun. So sometimes in sport, like music, you need a little success to have buy-in.
Yeah.
Right? So now, okay, well, I'm playing a little better. Maybe this coach is right.
Yeah.
No matter how good I was as a player.
And you're paying $20. You're not really paying, are you?
Right, yeah.
You're doing them a favor.
Yeah. But I think sometimes these players need to have some success to really have that buy-in.
Yeah.
I think we're getting that, but yeah, it can be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. Do you think, I've got another question of it. Do you think that a lot of amateur tennis players, whether it's at Darling, whether it's at other places I go, really understand the depth of men's tennis or women's tennis or whatever? Do you think they really understand that the difference between what they're doing and even somebody in Great Britain who's in a local club in the first team is huge?
Right.
They're going to get absolutely demolished by that person. Yeah. And then that person's going to get demolished by someone who's not even anywhere in your
College
planet.
Player, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think that people really understand, or do you think in that, because they're in that small environment and they're all kind of like slapping each other on the back?
There's no way, because tennis is so much more global now than when I was growing up. They're playing at a super high level in Serbia and Croatia and South America and China and Japan and Australia. So it's so much more global. But I think it helps when they go see pro tennis in person. So Indian Wells just happened. Taylor Fritz, huge win. Shout out to him. He uses head rackets. Head rackets are awesome. But no, I think people don't understand until also they see it live and see how hard they hit the ball.
Yeah.
Men and women. So it could be qualifying of a Grand Slam or, a challenger like we have at UNLV. So watching it live, I think, really helps.
Right.
I mean, really seeing somebody, up close and personal. Indian Wells, you can get 20 feet from a player and watch them practice.
Right.
Where some other events, you're 500 feet away or whatever it is. But I think seeing it live can really help. And, you see a player 120 in the world, they're incredible.
Yeah.
They're amazing, man or woman.
And so this is one of my big questions is, what is holding back the amateur tennis player? From all the people that you see week in, week out, woman, man, dog, kangaroo, I don't care. What?
Dog.
Well, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter who's on the court. Nowadays, you can't restrict anything to anybody. Yeah. If a dog wants to come on and play, we will have to let him because we might hurt his feelings.
He identifies as a tennis player.
Exactly. I don't know what the pronoun for dog is. Is it dog?
Doggy.
I don't know, doggy. What is holding back, in your opinion, if you had to say like one or two or three things that you're thinking, right, if I could make all of these people in these clinics or in my private lessons, if I could make them do this one or two or three things, what would they be? What's holding these people back? Because for me...
go ahead.
Sorry, just say for me, probably myself included, when I go to different clubs around the world, I mean, people, it's really funny, people are always the same weight. If they're fat, they're fat. If they're skinny, they're skinny. Right. And they're very, very few of them ever improve.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the same as they were when you were last there, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. So what's holding the amateur tennis player back?
Yeah, I would say number one is movement.
Right.
A lot of these people think they can get away with hitting the ball in the wrong position on the court.
Right.
So to really get better at tennis and most sports in general, you have to sometimes just take the racket out of the hand and move.
Right.
Do movement drills. And as an adult, it's like, no,
then you
I don't
get
want to do that.
I'm paying and I don't want
I don't want to do that. I play golf at a high level and I started as an adult. I really enjoy it. One of the coaches said, well, you got to do stuff without a club. You got to do these exercises and you got to visualize and this and that. And I was like, really?
Visualize? Oh, is that a big?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Huge for, tennis or golf or any sport. But so number one, movement. Take the racket out of the hand, do some movement drills, your coach can help you with that. I think that a big one too is when you're in a group setting and, this is just human nature, is just looking stupid when you're trying something new.
Right.
Just really like swinging and shanking or missing it or being in the wrong spot, or trying something correct, but just looking stupid.
Right.
And that fear of like, oh, who's there? And I see it every clinic.
Right.
I'll tell somebody to do this and they do it and then they kind of look around. And they see who saw a miss.
Yeah.
Well, everyone else is missing. There's no pros out here, so might as well try to get better while you're missing.
Which is hard for me to understand because you know me as you do. I couldn't give an MF what anyone thinks about me.
Right. You're
I'm that
very
guy.
Unique. Yes.
So, So I will do. If you said to me like, stick your leg up in the air, I'd do it. I wouldn't care.
Right, yeah.
And if it works, I'll do it again.
Right.
And if it didn't, I go like, so what?
Right. I tried it.
One of those things. I got to ask you. Was there any other things that you wanted to include? That the movement thing is huge. That makes a lot of sense.
I think movement is huge. I think serve as well.
Right.
Serve is something that is by far the most important shot of the game.
Because people don't practice it very often.
It, but the big thing for me when you serve, like throwing a football or throwing a ball. I've had some players have huge success. And we're throwing a football almost every practice.
Right.
I would say movement number one. Trying new things, are really committing to them. They're afraid of looking dumb. And then how much are you trying to improve your serve? If you're just trying to get it in the box or go here and there, you're going to stay at 3-5 or 4-0. The serve has to become a weapon if you want to be a better player.
Because you're going to win half the games, right?
Yeah.
At least.
And then club tennis usually doubles.
Yeah.
So what will your serve do? If you improve it, it'll help your partner finish at the net.
Right.
Right. And then it takes a lot of pressure off your return game. I got to play with John Isner, against John Isner, against Ivo Karlovic. So I have some of the best serves in the world. I grew up with Andy Roddick.
Right.
Amazing serve.
Incredible. So
seeing those serves and how important it is, and then also it takes pressure off the other parts of the game. So they can just swing free on the return games or during the points because they know they have that in their back pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also gives, I would imagine, I wouldn't know, but I would imagine in doubles, if you've got a great serve, it also gives your partner confidence.
Oh,
'Cause he's thinking,
I love playing with Isner.
Yeah.
That was the most fun I ever had.
Wow. So just to move on to, so you still, I don't know what exactly the job description is, but the head, you go and look for talent.
Correct. For head racket sports in the US.
Head rackets. So what do you look for? I mean, are you just looking for someone who's winning, or are you looking for somebody? Because thing is, you might say, for example, so a guy might be winning 3 months from now, he might get a girlfriend and be like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And then all of your time and effort, and same in the music business.
Yeah.
That's the thing that happens with bands. What happens is the same thing. A record company signs a band, they all go and buy drugs and alcohol, get girls, and all the girls go, you shouldn't be doing that. And then all of a sudden, the record company's like, I just invested $1 million, and So, what do you look for in a prospective
athlete?
Head signing. I would call it.
So my job is pretty wide net. I mean, I sponsor players I sponsored 10-year-old twins in California,
right,
all the way up to 25-year-old pros. So what I'm looking for, and hopefully I can sign some athletes that I'll pass on in the future to our international office in Austria, who works with our pros. You have to have some thresholds. You have to have some success. But a lot of it, I also look at the ability to advance and play at the next level.
Right.
So a 16-year-old, if I don't sign many 16-year-olds, I try to sign them a little younger.
Right.
But if I try to sign a 16-year-old, I have to see that they can play professionally in a year or two.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be you go to college for 4 years and you play 4 years, then you try to play on tour. I have to see a 16-year-old that could be successful on tour at 19.
Right.
What does that mean? Weapons. You have to have weapons.
Yeah.
You have to have probably 3 weapons in your game. It could be movement, should be serve, could be forehand, whatever it is. So you have to have weapons. Competitiveness. Right. How well do they play when they're down?
Right.
Right. How do they start whining? Do they look at their coach? Do they look at their mom? I mean, if they start looking to their whoever, man, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
I mark it on my scouting sheet. So the other stuff has to really overcome that. I'm big on sportsmanship, to be honest. I mean, I don't sponsor players if they have a really bad attitude.
Right.
And that's just something I think the game deserves.
Yeah.
I was sponsored, and that's something that I think we're maybe a little different than some other companies.
Yeah.
We don't sponsor as many players, and that's something that has to be there. Another thing that I really look at is who they're being coached by.
Right.
Is if they have a good coaching staff, because I know that player's going to get better, or I trust that coach.
They've got an opportunity.
They got an opportunity to get better. They're not just out there, hitting in a public court or whatever, and I may entertain that if somebody's really good and getting better. But that's something that I feel more secure in my investment and our company's investment if a player has a good coach.
Right. So let's say, for example, you go to a tournament. You see a guy who's got talent like you, weapons, this, that, and the other, but he's got an attitude like mine. What's happening there? Is he getting signed?
No, that's a conversation. I mean, that's okay. Let's have a sit down. I want to talk to your coach. I want to talk to your parents. How invested are you? How long are you going to give this a try? I want to see the track record a little bit.
Right.
Are you trending with your attitude in the upward direction?
Yeah.
In the downward direction? Is it stable? But I'll talk to your team. I'll talk to the people around you, because maybe they say, hey, Stuart's working really hard on his attitude. He's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, by the way.
No, maybe. Maybe we're taking time off tournaments.
Yeah,
we're just going to work really hard on that. But I'll entertain it. Because my job is a talent scout, so I'm not going to dismiss somebody. I'm going to have maybe a deeper conversation.
Yeah. Because I actually had a coach years ago. I won't mention his name, but he had a Wimbledon title. He went pro. He won second division of the Bundesliga.
Wow.
And he got upset with someone and broke their collarbone with his racket.
Wow.
And that
double
was like,
wow.
That's it. It's a double one. I mean, there's no way back from that, or is there? I don't know. Not for the collarbone, obviously. There's no way back from that.
No, that's going to go down in your reputation.
Yeah. So anyway, I think unless there's anything else, I think we've got some fantastic information there for everybody who cares to, and it's really fun. The only one other thing I wanted to ask you real quick, and this is a big golfing thing as well, and I'm not going to say you did it, but I noticed this in a lot of clinics and a lot of things, and I noticed this happen again last night, where you'll get like a guy or a girl that will do, say for example, 3 or 4 or 5 completely not inappropriate, that's not the right word, but incorrect things that don't make any sense.
Right.
Maybe there's a flow. I did it last night. Maybe there's a flow, but I did actually listen to what you said.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm bringing it up now hopefully proves that. Like where there'll be like a floater ball and won't move in.
Right.
Or the other people will be at the net and then they'll go in the
Right.
net themselves.
Advance, yeah.
Or they'll hit the ball as hard as they can when they only need to do, and they do
Right.
4 or 5 of these things, and suddenly they hit one good shot, and they're like, "F yeah,
Yeah. I got it. I got it. I found the Holy Grail. Yeah.
And do you find that a lot? Like there was what was that golf movie where the guy
Happy Gilmore?
was not that
Tin
one,
Cup?
but
Tin
yeah,
Cup?
yeah, that was it. All he was looking for was that one shot. Like he didn't, but even though he did,
had 12 in the water, and
Yeah.
his last ball he made it on the green.
and he was like, "Woo!"
like
Excellent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you encounter a lot of that sort of thing. It's like that one because you're never going to win any tournaments with that.
Yeah. Well,
You might get some good photo ops.
I mean, I think a lot of it is, as a pro or an amateur, what are your expectations? You come to a Monday clinic, and you pay $20. Are you expecting to have one good shot? Are you expecting to, hey, let's learn and progress, and in a couple weeks hit 20 good shots.
Yeah.
But I love seeing people enjoy the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's for me, that's why our sport has grown 27% in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You can socially distance, which is good. But it's a great sport.
Yeah.
Everyone can play it. At Darling here in Vegas, and we do a great job with beginners. We have an amazing beginner program, so we're getting like hundreds of new people into the sport. But see them enjoy it and exercise and meet new people. I mean, I think that's in this world where we have less and less human interaction.
Yeah.
I think getting people to play doubles and interact with each other is awesome.
Right.
So when I see somebody hit that great shot and get excited, man, that's cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
I want to help them hit more than one.
Yeah.
But no, I love the sport. I'm grateful. And I like to see that.
And my last thing of this is something that really fascinates me about tennis and how you personally would go about helping somebody with this. Because the fact of the matter is, from what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of stuff about tennis is relaxing, making sure you accelerate through. But the trouble is, somebody comes on the court for the first time, woman, man, dog, kangaroo, whatever, you can't tell them that because the ball's going everywhere. Right. So what you have to tell them is like you turn, you got to hit through, you can't do this loose kind of thing. And the trouble is, a lot of it, I would include myself in this, you kind of come up through your, I'm not going to use the word career in mind, but you come up through your amateur playing where, how do you transition from that bit where you've kind of
more control,
stiff and sort of, trying to just to get it over the net to being able to just let go?
Right. Well, I think it goes back to one of my points about, making errors and looking silly.
That's a great point.
And
so just going for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, after you have a basic understanding of the game and the technical components, what grip, where to have the racket, tennis is played. If you want to hit the ball hard, you need some type of spin on it. Rarely can you hit the ball hard and flat like Del Potro.
Yeah, unless it's in someone's back.
Right. Yeah.
Then
like
you can.
Kerry Franklin. Illinois.
Yeah.
But if you accelerate, and you're putting topspin on the ball, you're putting, forward rotation.
Yeah.
That ball is going to come down at a certain amount of space. So, why is Rafa's forehand so great? It has the most RPMs of any shot, the most rotation. So that ball is going high, and then it's coming down fast.
Yeah.
So there is safety when you swing with the right amount of spin.
Yeah.
So you have to talk to people about that. You have to start slow. I usually start people near the net.
Yeah.
So they have more success and they see the ball come over and down instead of standing at a lot of times, less experienced pros will have them, start way back and they'll feed them a ball from 80 feet. I'll start right next to you, feeding you a ball near the net. So you have some success like I do with kids. But top spin is needed if you want to swing fast.
Yeah, but the thing I'm taking away from this, which I think is really, really interesting to me, is that what you're saying, there's a very similar thing in guitar playing that they only just discovered a couple of years ago. What you're sort of saying is at some point you've got to just like go for it and if it doesn't come off, there's no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things in coaching I've seen that helps is shadow swinging. So
right.
in regards to acceleration, Stuart, and creating more power, it's accelerating.
Yeah.
So, how do you practice? Well, a lot of times I'll have players shadow swing twice and then hit 2 balls.
Yeah.
Because when you shadow swing in any sport, there is no fear of missing.
No.
Because you're not making contact with the ball. There's also no fear of where my racket is.
Right.
You're just accelerating.
Yeah.
So if I can get a player at any age to shadow swing properly and relax, that will now transition. When you do that, same thing as you create habits, in your myelin sheath and your brain stem. The more you do a proper shadow swing, just like you're playing a note in a guitar, it's going to get stored on your brain stem.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so if I do 100 shadow swings, every other day, that's going to be pretty good in a week's time or a month's time.
Because they discovered not that long ago, and I want to know if this falls in your theory. With guitar playing, one of the things was you would put a metronome on and you would do triplets or 16th notes, and you go digger, 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 you go a little bit up, digger, digger. And then basically what happened was somebody, I can't remember the guy's name, it's a guy called Martin Miller who talks about it, but somebody showed him. And they realised that you can't increase your speed by walking. It's like you can't get better at running by walking. Right. And they said at some point, regardless of how messy it is or how bad the technique is, assuming you've got some sort of technique in the first place, you got to go as fast as you can.
Right. It's very similar to golf because now they're saying they've done a lot of mathematical and quantitative analysis of power over precision.
Yeah.
And Bryson DeChambeau now is smashing the ball 400 yards.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's a little bit off the fairway, but it doesn't matter because now he's so much closer than everyone else.
Same thing. So it's the same thing.
At a young age in golf, now they're teaching a lot more power than they are precision.
Yeah.
Because they say that precision can be added later. So, similar to a serve with young players, I do a lot of shadow swing, a lot of football throwing to understand how loose you need to be.
Yeah.
And also, last point on that is how you hold a tennis racket. A lot of amateurs hold the racket way too tight.
Right.
And so I have a scale I use with people. It's 1 to 10 scale. 10 being you're holding it like Thor. You're trying to crush it.
Yeah.
When you're holding a tennis racket, rarely should you hold it more than a 6.
Right.
So when I'm hitting a forehand on a ground stroke, it should be a 4.
Right.
So it's less than half of my total grip strength.
Yeah.
So that I've had pretty good success with, and that will lead to more racketed speed because it's looser.
But it's a really interesting concept because at some point, like if, say, for example, you've got a sprinter who's running a race.
Right.
If he's going to lose, he's not going to say, well, I'd love to go faster, but I'm a bit worried about my technique.
Right.
That guy's just going to explode
Right.
and go absolutely as fast as he can.
Right.
And the way I teach it on guitar, oddly enough, is I say to people, look, I can say the words, I know Brian and Dublin. Now, it doesn't matter how fast I try and say, I know Brian and Dublin. Right, I've messed up. It's never going to stop me saying I know Brian and Dublin.
Right.
My ability to do it slower is never going to go away. Right? But if I speed it up, then maybe my ability to go faster. But it's so interesting what you say. To me, that's one brilliant thing. If anybody we're going to look at the camera or cares to take something away, don't care about looking stupid. At some point, you've got in your practice times anyway, you just got to go as fast as you can.
And I think a big thing for young athletes or young musicians or anybody is carving time that says, okay, this is time for acceleration.
Yeah.
Or this is time for speed. It shouldn't be all the time.
No.
Right? But it should be a good amount of the time. Right. And that's something that needs to be, if you have a plan as an athlete or musician, you need to have that concrete plan.
Yeah.
When I went to that tennis academy at 15, now I really had a plan.
Right.
In college, man, my coaches, they had everything planned out, every 10 minutes of practice.
Right.
So then when you're involved in it, you're really, really engaged in that activity. And they call it deep practice, really getting into a singular thing for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but that is very good.
That's it. Brilliant. You know what, Brian? That's absolutely fabulous information. I hope that you've all got as much out of this as I do, because I'm always trying to improve my tennis. That's absolutely fantastic, and love to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
I don't want to say good luck in the future, because I'm probably going to see you on Thursday or when the next time. But anyway, thanks for coming over.
Appreciate it.
Brilliant podcast. Lots of fantastic information. I'm just going to sign off here. Should switch over to me any second, I hope. Well, anyway, it's looking now. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully you got some good information from that. I know I did. Have a good one. I'll speak to you very soon. Brilliant.
Awesome. That was great.